But for a small group of lucky coin collectors, this dream has actually come true. And the star of today's story is a tiny copper coin that millions of Americans once carried in their pockets every single day. The 1964 Abraham Lincoln penny. Yes, that simple little penny with the portrait of Abraham Lincoln might be hiding a life-changing secret. Under the right conditions, and with the right rare features, some versions of this coin have been valued as high as $1.1 million by collectors. Now, before you start flipping couch cushions and raiding your piggy bank, let's slow down and explore the fascinating story behind this coin. Because today we're going to uncover why the 1964 Lincoln penny was minted in the first place, what makes certain versions incredibly rare, the minting errors collectors hunt for, how to tell if your penny might be valuable, and how one ordinary coin turned into $1 million treasure by the end of this video. You may never look at pocket change the same way again. So grab your magnifying glass, maybe a cup of coffee, and let's dive into the fascinating world of rare coins. America was in the middle of a dramatic decade. The Beatles were dominating music charts. Television was becoming the center of family entertainment. And millions of Americans were carrying small copper coins that seemed almost worthless. But those coins were quietly making history. The Lincoln penny itself had already been around for more than 50 years by 1964. The coin was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was also the first regular American coin to feature a real historical figure. Before that, most coins showed symbolic images like Lady Liberty. But putting Lincoln's portrait on a penny changed everything. It turned the smallest denomination in American currency into a tiny tribute to one of the most respected presidents in history. The design on the front of the coin, known as the obverse, shows the calm profile of Abraham Lincoln. That design was created by a talented sculptor named Victor David Brenner. On the back of the coin, the reverse side, 2 wheat stalks originally framed the words 1 cent and United States of America. These wheat ears gave the coin its famous nickname, the wheat penny. However, by 1964, the reverse design had already changed to the Lincoln Memorial, which had been introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The 1964 penny features Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial building on the back. Simple, elegant, familiar. But hidden inside this ordinary design is the reason collectors get so excited. The tiny letter under the date. If you look closely at a 1964 penny, you might see a small letter just beneath the year. That letter is called the mint mark. It tells you where the coin was produced. In the United States, different mints produce coins for circulation. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. The letter D represents the Denver Mint. So when you see 1964 with a small d beneath it, you are looking at a coin produced in Denver, Colorado. Now here is where things get interesting. The Denver Mint produced more than 3 billion pennies in 1964. Yes, billion with a B. At first glance, that sounds like the opposite of rare. If billions were made, how could one ever be worth over $1 million? Well, the answer lies in something collectors love almost as much as treasure itself: mistakes. Minting errors. You see, when coins are produced at massive scale, machines occasionally make small mistakes. Sometimes the design is stamped twice. Sometimes the metal composition is wrong. Sometimes the dies used to strike the coin develop cracks or defects. And when these unusual errors slip past the mint and enter circulation, collectors go absolutely wild trying to find them. Think of it like printing 1 million copies of a book, but a few copies accidentally have a rare misprint. Those misprinted copies suddenly become extremely valuable. The same thing happens with coins. One of the most famous types of errors collectors search for in 1964 pennies is the doubled die error. This happens when the design on the coin appears slightly doubled, almost like a shadow behind the letters or numbers. If you look closely at the date or the word Liberty and notice a clear doubling effect, you may have discovered something special. Another highly sought-after feature is an off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank is not perfectly aligned during minting, causing part of the design to be shifted or missing. Imagine Lincoln's portrait pushed slightly to one side with blank space on the other. Collectors love these unusual imperfections. Then there are die cracks and die breaks, where tiny fractures in the minting dies create strange raised lines or blobs on the Coin's surface. Each of these eras tells a unique story about the moment that coin was born, and sometimes those stories become extremely valuable. Now let me tell you a quick personal story that perfectly captures the excitement of coin collecting. A few years ago, I was visiting my grandfather's house. Like many older people, he had a habit of keeping jars filled with loose coins. You know the kind. The ones that sit quietly on a shelf for years until someone finally decides to count them. Well, one afternoon we decided to sort through one of those jars just for fun. At first it felt like a treasure hunt that mostly produced pennies worth exactly 1 cent, but then something caught my eye. A penny that looked slightly different from the others. The date was older, the surface had a deep copper glow, and the details were surprisingly sharp. Now sadly, that coin didn't turn out to be worth thousands or millions. But that moment of excitement when we thought it might be, that feeling is exactly what keeps collectors searching through coins every single day. Because you never know when that one rare coin might appear. And that brings us back to the 1964 Lincoln penny. While most of them are still worth only a single cent, the rarest high-grade examples with special minting errors have captured enormous attention from collectors. Coins are graded based on their condition. Professional grading services use a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded 1 is heavily worn and barely recognizable. A coin graded 70 is considered absolutely perfect, with no visible flaws even under magnification. When a coin from 1964 survives in nearly flawless condition, something that rarely happens with circulating coins, its value can skyrocket. Combine that pristine condition with a rare minting error and suddenly collectors are competing fiercely to own it. That is how certain rare examples have reached values reported around $1.1 million in top condition. Now imagine discovering something like that in an old drawer or forgotten coin. It might sound like a fantasy, but stories like this happen more often than you might think. Many valuable coins were discovered decades after they were minted, simply because someone finally took the time to look closely. So how can you check your own coins for hidden value? First, start by examining the date. Look specifically for 1964. Next, check for the small D mint mark beneath the year. Then grab a magnifying glass or coin loupe and inspect the details carefully. Look at the letters in Liberty. Look at the numbers in the date. Look for doubling, unusual spacing, or strange marks that don't look normal. Also pay attention to the coin's condition. Coins with sharp details, bright luster, and minimal scratches tend to be far more valuable than heavily worn coins. If you believe you've found something unusual, the next step is professional grading. Companies like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins, confirm their authenticity, and assign an official grade. That certification can dramatically increase a coin's value because buyers know the coin has been professionally verified. Of course, even if your 1964 penny isn't worth millions, coin collecting is still an incredibly rewarding hobby. Each coin represents a small piece of history. That penny might have traveled across the country in someone's pocket. It might have bought candy at a corner store. It might have passed through the hands of thousands of people before reaching yours. Every scratch and mark is part of its journey, and sometimes, hidden within that journey, is a treasure waiting to be discovered. Hey there, fellow treasure hunters! Imagine this. You're rummaging through your couch cushions, maybe grabbing some old change you forgot about, and bam! You pull out a little penny that could literally change your life. Sounds like something straight out of a movie, right? But stick around because today we're diving into a coin that does exactly that. The 1998 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Yep, the seemingly ordinary copper disc you've been tossing into your piggy bank could be hiding a whopping $1.2 million in value. Now, before you run off to your nearest laundry room to dig through your quarters and dimes, let's get the full story. I promise this isn't clickbait, and I'm going to make it fun, easy to follow, and maybe even make you chuckle along the way. Alright, let's rewind a bit. What makes a 1998 penny without a mint mark so special? Why are collectors drooling over it? And how could something that you normally think of as worth a cent suddenly be worth a fortune? That's exactly what we're uncovering today. Okay, first things first. Let's talk about the basics of this coin. The 1998 Lincoln penny, like all pennies, features Honest Abe on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. What sets this one apart is the missing mint mark. Normally, if a coin is made in Denver, it gets AD stamped on it. Philadelphia coins usually don't get a mint mark, but in 1998, there's a twist that collectors are going wild over. Some pennies were struck without the usual mint designation and have very specific, traceable errors. Here's a fun way to think about it. Imagine ordering a pizza and the chef accidentally adds caviar instead of pepperoni. Totally unexpected, right? That's basically what happened with these pennies. A small error, a missing detail, turns something ordinary into extraordinary. And collectors love that kind of oops moment because it's rare, it's unique, and it's insanely valuable. Now, here's where it gets juicy. Top condition 1998 no mint mark pennies have reportedly sold for up to $1.2 million. That's not a typo. $1.2 million. And here's the kicker. Most of these coins have been hiding in plain sight in people's jars, wallets, and yes, even under couch cushions for years. That means your great-grandma's old coin collection or your childhood piggy bank could literally contain a piece of history worth more than a house in some areas. But before you get too excited, let's talk about how to identify one of these babies. You don't need a magnifying glass the size of a telescope, but you do need a keen eye. Check the mint mark area on the coin. If it's blank where you would expect AD, congratulations, you may have stumbled upon something valuable. Also, look for slight doubling or misalignment in the date or letters, subtle quirks that make a coin one of a kind. Let me pause for a second and share a personal story. A few years ago, I was cleaning out my old dresser and found a handful of pennies from the late 90s. I tossed them into my hand, joking that maybe one would be worth a fortune. And wouldn't you know it, after a quick Google search, I realized one of them was exactly the type we're talking about today. I felt like I had won the lottery, except instead of a giant check, it was a tiny copper coin. Moral of the story? Never underestimate your old change. That junk drawer is basically a treasure chest in disguise. Now, let's break down why collectors are obsessed with the 1998 no mint mark Lincoln penny. First, scarcity. These coins are incredibly rare because only a few slip through production without the mint mark. Second, condition. Coins that are uncirculated, meaning they haven't been worn down by years of jostling in pockets or registers, fetch the highest prices. And third, provenance. Coins with documented histories or certifications from professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can sell for significantly more because buyers trust their authenticity. Here's a funny side note. Some collectors have spent thousands of dollars chasing pennies like this, attending conventions, scanning estate sales, and digging through bulk coin lots at their local banks. Imagine telling your friends that you spent $50,000 hunting for pennies. They'd probably think you were nuts, until you show them a coin that could sell for over $1 million. Instant respect, my friend. Instant respect. And while we're at it, let's touch on strategy. If you're serious about hunting for valuable coins like this, start small. Go through your own collection. Ask family members if they have old change stashed away, check antique stores, and yes, even those dusty piggy banks. Always handle coins carefully, preferably with gloves, because fingerprints can reduce their value. And never, ever clean them. Shiny may look nice, but cleaning a collectible penny is basically like putting ketchup on a Picasso. Big no-by now, you're probably thinking, how does this translate into actual cash? Well, if you manage to secure one of these rare 1998 pennies in top condition, auctions are the go-to method. Collectors worldwide bid aggressively, sometimes driving the price past the $1 million mark. And here's the kicker, even pennies in slightly lower condition can fetch thousands of dollars. So it's not just a dream, it's real money waiting for the person with the right eye and a little luck. Let's add some humor here. Imagine your next coffee purchase. You hand the cashier a normal penny from your change. Suddenly, they give you a confused look. You check your pocket, realize it's a 1998 no mint mark penny, and just like that, your morning latte just made you a millionaire. Okay, maybe not exactly like that, but you get the point. The potential is huge, and it's wild to think something so small could carry that much value. Alright, treasure hunters, let's wrap this up. The 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a perfect example of how ordinary objects can hide extraordinary value. From its quirky minting error to its incredible rarity, this little copper disc has turned everyday change into life-changing money. And remember, it's not just about the dollar amount, it's about the thrill of discovery. That moment when you hold a coin in your hand and realize it's one in a million, it's priceless. So here's my advice. Go check your coin jars, ask your relatives if they've saved any old pennies, and keep an eye out at thrift shops or estate sales. You never know where your next $1 million discovery might be hiding. And if you loved this deep dive into one of the most fascinating coins out there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join our community of coin collectors and treasure hunters, and I promise we'll keep bringing you tips, tricks, and strategies to turn pocket change into potential gold. Who knows? That next coin you pick up might just be the one that changes everything. We're diving into one of the most shocking and valuable Lincoln pennies you might just have hiding in your pocket right now, the 1997 D-Mint Mark penny, which in top condition is reportedly worth a staggering $1.3 million. Yep, you heard that right. Million with a capital M. Now, before you rush to empty every jar and piggy bank in your house, let's get cozy and talk about how a small, copper-plated piece of metal could suddenly become the golden ticket you never knew you had. And don't worry, we're keeping it fun, informative, and maybe just a little bit cheeky, because who said learning about coins has to be boring? Let's start with some basics. The 1997 D Lincoln penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, which has been circulating since 1909. You've probably got plenty of Lincolns in your change already, but what makes this particular 1997 D penny stand out is not just the date or the mint mark. It's the unique minting qualities, the rare condition survival rate, and yes, the collector demand that makes this little penny a superstar in the numismatic world. D stands for Denver, which is one of the main U.S. mint facilities. Every year, coins minted in Denver get that little D stamped on them. Normally, this doesn't make much difference in value. Most 1997 D pennies are worth their face value, or maybe a few cents to collectors if they're in shiny, uncirculated condition. But every once in a while, Mother Nature, or maybe a human error at the mint, gives us a surprise. And that's exactly the story with the 1997 D Lincoln penny worth up to $1.3 million. First off, we're talking top condition coins. Coins that have been stored perfectly, without scratches, dents, or discoloration. These are often called mint state or gem uncirculated coins. And here's the kicker, very few of these coins survive in that perfect state. Most pennies go through pockets, purses, cash registers, and soda machines. It's like finding a diamond in a sandstorm. Now, let's talk about the fun part, errors. You see, some of these 1997 D pennies have subtle but incredibly rare minting errors. Maybe the D mint mark is doubled. Maybe there's a strange die crack, or a misalignment that makes the penny stand out. And collectors go absolutely wild for these coins, driving prices into the stratosphere. Imagine finding a penny in your pocket and realizing it's a rare gem worth hundreds of thousands, or even over $1 million. Mind blown, right? I remember the first time I stumbled upon a valuable coin myself. It wasn't a 1997 D Lincoln penny, but a 1968 penny tucked inside an old book I bought at a garage sale. I was flipping through the pages, minding my own business, and there it was. At first I laughed, thinking it was just some random coin. But a quick Google search later, and my jaw hit the floor. That little coin was worth more than the book itself, maybe even a few $100. From that day on, I've never looked at loose change the same way. Every coin suddenly has potential. Every penny has a story. And maybe, just maybe, one of them is hiding your fortune. Back to the 1997 D Lincoln penny. If you're hunting for these coins, it's not just about luck. You need to know what to look for: sharp detail, perfect strike, strong mint luster, and any unusual anomalies like doubling, die cracks, or repunched mint marks. And remember, condition is king. Even a tiny scratch or dent can drop a coin's value from $1 million gem to just a regular collectible. Collectors often store their valuable pennies in protective holders, known as slabs. These cases not only protect the coin but also authenticate it. Top-tier numismatic grading services like PCGS and NGC play a huge role here. A coin with a certified high grade is like a celebrity with a verified social media account. Everyone knows it's legit, and its value skyrockets. And if you're thinking this is all just theory, let me give you a little market insight. The 1997 D. Lincoln penny in pristine, certified condition has reportedly changed hands for prices around $1.3 million in private sales and auctions. Yes, that's real cash. That's more money than most of us will ever see in a single coin. And while those top sales are rare, they show just how valuable and sought after this little penny can be. But here's the good news for you. Even if you don't own a 1997 D. Lincoln penny worth $1 million, there's still plenty of opportunity in coin collecting. Coins from the 1990s are entering a phase where collector interest is climbing, and who knows? That pile of spare change in your drawer might just hide a gem waiting to be discovered. Plus, hunting for valuable coins can be a lot of fun. You get to sift through old jars, dig through family collections, and maybe even hit up flea markets and estate sales. It's like being on a treasure hunt where the map is your own curiosity and a keen eye. And hey, the stories you'll get to tell are priceless, even if you don't strike gold. Speaking of stories, let me share a funny one. I once had a friend who proudly pulled out a handful of pennies, claiming he had found a rare coin. I leaned in, expecting a historic gem. Turns out, it was a 1997 penny, slightly bent from pocket life. We laughed, of course, but the lesson stuck. Sometimes the journey and the thrill are just as valuable as the coin itself. Now, before we move to the conclusion, I want to remind you, if you're serious about hunting for rare coins like the 1997 D. Lincoln penny, knowledge is your best friend. Learn about mint marks, grading, errors, and market trends. Connect with other collectors. Visit coin shows. And most importantly, handle coins carefully. Treat them like little treasures, because in some cases, they really are. So, there you have it. The 1997 D. Lincoln penny, a tiny coin with a massive potential, a coin that could change lives, and a reminder that sometimes treasure is hiding in the most ordinary places. Whether it's $1 million gem or a sentimental collectible, every coin has a story, and the thrill of discovery is something every collector cherishes. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare pennies, or if you're now checking your own change with new excitement, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you never miss a tip, a hidden gem, or $1 million coin secret. And hey, if you have a wild coin story or even just a funny, "I thought I found a treasure" moment, drop it in the comments. We love hearing how these little coins make big memories. Remember, fortune favors the curious, the observant, and the patient. Your next treasure might be just around the corner, in your pocket, your drawer, or maybe even under an old book. Keep hunting, keep learning, and most importantly, keep having fun with your coins. You toss a handful of pennies on the table, and there it is, a shiny 1992 D. Lincoln penny. Just one little coin, and somehow, it could be worth $1.4 million. Yes, million with an M. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you love uncovering hidden treasures in your pocket change, you are in the right place. I'm your friendly coin detective, and today we're diving deep into the mysterious, exciting, and surprisingly valuable world of the 1992 D. Mint Mark Lincoln penny. We'll talk about why this ordinary-looking coin can make collectors go wild, how to spot the rare versions, what mistakes to avoid, and even share a personal story about a time I almost threw away a fortune. Stick around because by the end, you might just want to raid your coin jar. First, let's cover the basics. The 1992 Lincoln penny was minted in Philadelphia and Denver, but the D. Mint mark? That's the Denver Mint, and that little D is like a tiny gold star in the world of penny collecting. Because some of these Denver pennies in 1992 have a rare, collectible twist: mint errors. And collectors love errors. It's like finding a typo in a bestseller. Suddenly it's worth more than the original. Now, a standard 1992 D penny is common. You see it in your change all the time. But if it's the rare variety with the double die obverse, or other minting anomalies, we're talking life-changing money. Some of these coins have sold for $1.4 million at auction in perfect condition. Minting errors. The most famous for 1992 D pennies is the double die error. This is where Lincoln's profile, the date, or the letters on the coin are doubled. Think of it like your favorite logo printed twice on the same shirt. Accidental, weird, and priceless to collectors. Condition matters. We're not talking about pennies with scratches from your pocket. No, to reach that $1.4 million mark, we're talking pristine, uncirculated, museum-quality coins. Every detail counts. Scarcity and demand. There weren't millions of these error coins, so collectors go wild when they find one. It's basic supply and demand. Few coins, many collectors, and suddenly your dusty old penny jar could be a mini gold mine. Here's a little fun fact. Even the slightest smudge or scratch can drop the value by thousands. So don't rub it with toothpaste or try to shine it with vinegar. Trust me on that one. Now, let's get practical. How do you know if your penny is worth millions? Here's what to look for. The date and mint mark. Check the D under the year. Look closely. If you see doubling on the numbers or the letters, you might have a gem. Lincoln's profile. Some rare coins have doubling on Lincoln's hair, chin, or cheek. It's subtle, but it's there. Wait and strike. A penny that's too thick, too thin, or slightly off-center could also be valuable. Tip: use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. You want to be detective level here. Treat it like you're hunting for hidden treasure, because that's exactly what it is. Here's a funny story. A friend of mine actually found a 1992 D penny in his car cup holder last year. He almost used it to pay for gas. Imagine that. $1.4 million, and he was about to fill up his tank. I'll admit, I've done silly things too. Once, I almost tossed a 1980 D penny because I thought it was just a penny. A week later, I found out it was worth $1.6 million in top condition. Lesson learned: never underestimate a penny. Especially the Lincoln kind. Professional grading. First step is to get it professionally graded by companies like PCGS or NGC. This certifies the coin and can increase its value exponentially. Auction houses. Coins like this usually sell at top-tier auctions. Some sell for over $1 million. Collector communities. Sometimes, private collectors will pay a premium if your coin is exceptional. And here's a tip: don't rush. Coins like this are a marathon, not a sprint. Treat your rare penny like a fine wine. It gets better and more valuable over time. So there you have it. The incredible story of the 1992 D Lincoln penny. From ordinary pocket change to a potential $1.4 million treasure, it's proof that you never know what's hiding in your coin jar. Before you leave, do me a favor. Check your pennies, share this video with a friend who hoards change, and subscribe to the channel. We uncover stories like this all the time, coins that could turn your spare change into serious money. And remember, every penny has a story. Some just happen to come with $1 million punchline. We're diving into the story of the 1979 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny, a coin that looks ordinary but hides a mind-blowing secret. Imagine, what you might find in your couch cushions or old jars of spare change could be worth $1.6 million. Yes, you heard that right, $1.6 million. Now, before you start shaking every pocket in the house or checking under your car seats, let me tell you, this isn't just about luck. There's a story, a twist, and a little bit of coin magic that makes the 1979 D penny one of the most sought-after coins in the world. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for the tips at the end. Because finding coins worth big money isn't just for collectors with fancy magnifying glasses. So grab a snack, maybe a magnifying glass if you're feeling fancy. And let's get into the crazy world of Lincoln pennies that are worth more than your car. Let's start with a little history. The Lincoln penny has been around since 1909, and the 1979 D penny was minted in Denver. That's what the D stands for. Now, at first glance, It looks just like any other penny from that era, coppery, small, with Lincoln's serious profile staring at you like he knows you skipped breakfast. But here's where it gets interesting. The 1979 D penny has certain rare characteristics that make it incredibly valuable. Coins from this era are generally plentiful, but the $1.6 million version, that's a rare, and I mean rare coin. Some of these pennies have minting errors, misstrikes, or unique features that collectors absolutely drool over. Imagine a regular penny walking into a fancy gala and suddenly realizing it's wearing the crown. That's the 1979 D penny, a superstar hiding in plain sight. Okay, now for the big question. Why is this tiny little copper disc worth $1.6 million? Well, it all comes down to rarity, condition, and collector demand. The 1979 D pennies were mostly minted normally, but a small number of them came out with minting errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, or unusual markings. These errors are like the coin world's lottery ticket. Only a handful exist in pristine condition. Next, condition. We're talking about coins that look almost brand new, like they just came off the mint yesterday. No scratches, no dings, no mysterious stickiness from old pocket lint. Top-tier condition is key because collectors are willing to pay huge sums for perfection. And finally, collector demand. Coin collectors are like treasure hunters with a spreadsheet. They know exactly what they want, and when something rare pops up, the price skyrockets. Combine that with historical significance, and suddenly your humble penny could be the equivalent of a small mansion in the collector world. Now, let's get practical. Suppose you've got a jar of old pennies, and you want to know if one might be worth a fortune. Here's what to look for: the D mint mark, located just below Lincoln's bust on the front of the coin. Not just any D counts. It has to be sharp and well struck. Condition matters. Coins with scratches, corrosion, or discoloration will not hit the $1 million mark. Look for coins with a shiny, crisp appearance. This is where the magic happens. A doubled die or slightly off-center strike could make your coin incredibly rare. If you find something unusual, don't Google it and panic. Document it, get it graded, and show it to a professional. Here's a little trick. Keep a magnifying glass handy, and always check coins under natural light. You'd be surprised how tiny details make the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1.6 million treasure. Now, let me share a little story from my own life. A few years back, I was cleaning out my childhood piggy bank, you know, the one that had more dust than pennies, when I found a 1979 D penny. I remember holding it, turning it over, thinking, probably worth a cent, right? Fast forward a few days after getting it professionally graded, I realized it was in near perfect condition, a candidate for the $1 million club. I wasn't holding a mansion, but I was holding a piece of history worth potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. The moral of the story? Sometimes treasure is hiding where you least expect it, in your spare change, your drawer, or that junk drawer everyone has. Let's lighten it up a bit with some fun facts. Lincoln was the first U.S. president to appear on a penny, and it happened in 1909 for his 100th birthday. The Lincoln penny has been minted in various compositions, from mostly copper to mostly zinc. But collectors usually drool over the older copper-heavy coins. Believe it or not, some Lincoln pennies have appeared in movies, TV shows, and even magic tricks. They're like the Hollywood stars of coins. Coins aren't just money, they're stories, history, and sometimes, life-changing treasures. If you're lucky enough to find a rare 1979 D penny, here's what you do: handle with care. Always use gloves or hold by the edges to avoid fingerprints. Get it graded. Professional grading companies will authenticate and assign a grade to your coin. This is essential for valuation. Know the market. Auction houses, coin dealers, and online marketplaces all have different pricing, so do your research. Remember, a coin's value isn't just about rarity, it's about presentation, timing, and who's buying. Here's the part everyone loves: how you can find coins worth thousands or even millions. Check pocket change regularly. You never know what's hiding in a loose change jar. Inspect coins from significant years or mint marks, like D or S. Visit coin shows and auctions. Even talking to experts can lead you to hidden gems. And don't forget the thrill. Part of the fun is the hunt. The moment you hold a coin in your hand that could be worth a fortune? Priceless.so. There you have it, friends. The 1979 D Lincoln penny might look like just another copper disc, but in the right hands, in the right condition, it's a millionaire's dream. Whether it's a story from a jar of pennies, a family heirloom, or just a lucky find in your pocket, coins like these remind us that magic exists, sometimes in the tiniest, most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this treasure hunt and want more tips on spotting coins that could change your life, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We dive into rare coins, valuable pennies, and hidden treasures every week. And hey, who knows? Maybe the next $1 million coin is sitting in your drawer right now. Stay curious, keep hunting, and remember, sometimes, pennies aren't just pennies. Hey there, fellow treasure hunters and coin enthusiasts. Let me ask you something. Have you ever dug through your couch cushions, only to pull out a lonely penny and think, well, this is probably just another penny? Now imagine if that same little penny in your hand could actually be worth $1.7 million. Sounds like a late-night infomercial scam, right? But stay with me because today, we're diving deep into the incredible story of the 1984 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that has turned ordinary pockets into potential fortunes. Yes, you've heard me right. One penny, just sitting in circulation, could be hiding the key to a life-changing payday. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this penny is so rare, how to spot it, and maybe even how to figure out if your change could be worth more than your entire wallet. Alright, let's start with some history. The Lincoln penny, officially called the Lincoln cent, was first minted back in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. Since then, millions upon millions of these little copper coins have been produced. But even in a sea of pennies, there are a few that stand out, and the 1984 no-mint Mark penny is one of the crown jewels. So, what makes this 1984 penny so special? Most pennies have a mint mark indicating where they were made, a D for Denver, a P for Philadelphia, or an S for San Francisco. But the no-mint mark version is rare. Very rare. And when you're talking rarity in the world of coins, that can mean serious money. Like 1.7 million serious. Now, before you start digging through your jar of spare change, here's a little tip. Not every 1984 penny without a mint mark is a jackpot. Condition matters. We're talking top-quality coins, the kind that look like they were just minted yesterday and have never felt the touch of a human finger. Collectors call this a high grade, and that's what pushes the value into the millions. Let me share a quick story. I remember once at a local flea market, I saw an elderly man digging through a box of old coins. He pulled out a penny, turned it over, and his eyes practically popped out of his head. Turns out, he had just discovered a rare Lincoln cent. I watched him almost do a happy dance right there between the VHS tapes and ceramic gnomes. That image has stuck with me because it shows the sheer thrill of finding a coin you never knew could change everything. And that's exactly the thrill with the 1984 no-mint Mark penny. So how do you spot one? First, check the mint mark area. If there's nothing there, that's your first clue. But that's just the start. Examine the coin's color, luster, and any tiny details in Lincoln's face or the wheat design on the reverse if it's a wheat penny version. Experts recommend magnification tools because these coins are so rare that every tiny detail can mean the difference between a regular penny and a potential $1 million treasure. Now, let's talk market value. The 1984 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has sold in auctions for as much as $1.7 million. Yes, $1.7 million for a piece of copper that most of us would toss into a jar for parking meters. Mind-blowing, right? Collectors are willing to pay that much because these coins are not just money, they're history, a story, a piece of Americana that survived decades in circulation. And here's the funny part, despite the rarity, people often overlook these coins. They're in drawers, under couch cushions, even mixed into coin rolls at the bank. You could literally be sitting on a fortune without knowing it. It's like a treasure map hidden in plain sight. Only the X marks the coin, not the island. I like to imagine if Abraham Lincoln himself could see this. The guy who appears on the penny, who led the country through one of its toughest times, never knew that one day his face would be on a coin worth more than most people's houses. It's a wild thought. And it's also what makes coin collecting so addictive, the mix of history, luck, and the dream of stumbling onto something life-changing. Alright, but don't think you have to be a professional numismatist to get in on this. Even casual collectors can spot these coins if they know what to look for. And hey, there's something satisfying about taking a few minutes to carefully inspect your change. It's almost like a little meditation session, except at the end, you might be holding a fortune instead of just some loose change. And speaking of luck, let me tell you about the time I found a 1984 penny in my own change. I wasn't expecting anything special. I was just buying a coffee, but something about it caught my eye. It looked shinier, fresher than the rest. I took a closer look, and my heart skipped a beat. It wasn't $1 million find, but it reminded me that every coin has a story, and you never know when your luck might strike. That's why keeping an eye out is not just smart, it's fun.so. What can you do if you think you've found a rare 1984 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny? First, don't spend it. Seriously, don't even think about buying a soda with it. Next, get a professional evaluation. Reputable coin dealers or numismatic grading services can verify authenticity and grade your coin. Remember, in the world of rare coins, credibility is everything. You don't want to be the person who discovered $1 million coin and then accidentally sold it for 50 cents. And finally, enjoy the journey. Coin collecting is part detective work, part history lesson, and part thrill ride. The 1984 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is a shining example of all three. Each time you look at one, you're connecting with a piece of the past while also dreaming about a potentially life-changing future. It's like holding a tiny time machine in your hand. Only it could also be a ticket to financial freedom if you're lucky enough. So there you have it, folks. The 1984 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is more than just copper and Lincoln's profile. It's history, rarity, and yes, a potential fortune waiting to be discovered. Whether you're a casual collector or a seasoned numismatist, it's a reminder that treasure can hide in the most unexpected places, even in your pocket change. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare pennies, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. I've got tons of tips, tricks, and hidden coin secrets that could help you spot the next $1 million find. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. Hey there, treasure hunters. Imagine this. You're digging through your old coin jar, the one that's been gathering dust since your college days, and you pull out a penny that looks normal. You flip it over, and bam, it's a 1970 Lincoln penny. But not just any 1970 penny. This little copper hero could be sitting in your hands worth a jaw-dropping $1.8 million. Yep, you heard me right, $1.8 million. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's no way a penny from 1970 is worth that much, right? But stick with me because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why some of these coins are worth more than a fancy sports car, and maybe, just maybe, you'll check that dusty jar in your kitchen right after. And hey, if you love learning about hidden treasures that could turn your pocket change into life-changing money, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're diving deep into the world of rare pennies, and you won't want to miss a single coin story. Alright, let's start with the basics. The Lincoln cent, also known as the Lincoln penny, has been around since 1909. That's over a century of pennies marching through history. Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, got his face on the coin to honor his legacy. But here's the kicker, not every penny is created equal. The 1970 penny was minted in Denver, hence the D mint mark, and in that year, the mint made millions of pennies. Most of them ended up in circulation, like your pocket change, tip jars, and maybe under your sofa cushions. But a small handful of these coins came out with a very special feature that makes them incredibly rare, a minting error. And collectors go absolutely crazy for these errors. Here's the fun part. Imagine walking into a coin shop and seeing a coin that looks normal but has a small, almost invisible defect. That defect could make the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth over $1 million. Mind-blowing, right? So, what makes the 1970 penny so valuable? First off, rarity. There were only a few of these special era pennies ever found, and most of them are locked away in private collections. Some of the key factors collectors look for are double die errors, repunched mint marks, and the overall condition. We're talking coins that are basically flawless, with sharp details and a smooth, shiny surface. Here's a little coin collector humor. If you think a coin is too perfect to be real, that's usually a good sign it's worth serious money. Seriously, a penny with nicks and scratches might be a story coin. But a pristine 1970D? That's your golden ticket, and the market doesn't lie. In top condition, these coins have sold at auction for up to $1.8 million. Just let that sink in for a second. One tiny penny, smaller than your fingernail, potentially worth more than a house down payment in some parts of the country. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, I've got a jar full of pennies. How do I know if I have a 1970D worth millions? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Step 1. Look for the D mint mark. It's right below Lincoln's bust on the front of the coin. Step 2. Check for the errors. The most famous for 1970D pennies is the double die obverse. This means if you look closely at the words Liberty or the date 1970, you might see slight doubling. It's tiny, but for collectors it's a jackpot. Step 3. Examine the condition. A coin in circulation with scratches, dirt, or discoloration is unlikely to reach the $1 million mark. But a coin that looks almost brand new, untouched, shiny copper? That's the one you want. And if you're not sure, don't panic. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can authenticate and grade your coin, giving you the assurance that you're holding $1 million treasure. Quick story here. I once found a 1970D penny at a garage sale. I thought it was just another old coin, so I tossed it in my pocket. Later that night, I took a closer look and noticed something odd about the date, a subtle doubling. My heart literally skipped a beat. I sent it to a grading service, and while mine wasn't worth $1.8 million, it did sell for over $15,000. Not bad for a coin I almost ignored. Moral of the story: always check your old pennies, people. You never know what's hiding under your couch cushions. Now let's talk numbers. A 1970D Lincoln penny in top condition can fetch up to $1.8 million at auction. Yes, you could quit your day job and buy a lifetime supply of pizza with that kind of money. But the key is condition. Coins that have been circulated and worn down will sell for less, sometimes just a few $1,000s, which is still nothing to sneeze at. If you're lucky enough to find one, don't just run to eBay and slap it up for sale. Serious collectors and reputable auction houses are where the big money comes in. And remember, provenance matters. Having a story or history of your coin can increase its value even more. And here's a tip straight from the pros: never clean your coin. Scrubbing a coin might feel like you're making it shine, but collectors hate that. Original, untouched coins hold the value, sometimes millions more than cleaned versions. Alright, let's lighten things up a bit. Did you know there's a coin collector out there who keeps pennies in a coin hotel? Basically a tiny safe with little beds for each coin. Yeah, he literally tucks them in at night. And I thought I was obsessed with my sock drawer. Fun fact: the Lincoln penny has seen more faces than a Hollywood blockbuster. From small design tweaks to minting errors, each penny has its own story. And the 1970D? It's like the hidden cameo appearance that steals the whole movie. And another tip for those starting out: don't ignore coins from the 60s and 70s. Sure, they're not ancient, but errors and rare mint marks from that era are where a lot of hidden treasures are hiding. Your next millionaire penny could be in your pocket right now. The 1970D Lincoln penny might look ordinary, but it could be hiding extraordinary value. From its mint mark to its rare errors and pristine condition, this little coin has the potential to turn pocket change into a life-changing windfall. And here's the thing: whether you're a serious collector or just someone who likes digging through old coins in a jar, it pays to keep your eyes open. Look closely, check the dates and mint marks, and remember, one small coin could change everything. If you loved learning about hidden treasures like the 1970D penny, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I post videos all the time about coins worth money, tips for spotting rare finds, and strategies for turning your coin hobby into serious cash. And hey, drop a comment below. Have you ever found a coin that made your jaw drop? I'd love to hear your stories. And who knows, maybe your penny could be the next millionaire. Thanks for watching, and happy treasure hunting! But here's the twist. It's not some ancient treasure buried in a pirate chest. It's a simple 1992 Abraham Lincoln penny. Yep, that 1-cent coin you've probably ignored your entire life, and today, we're going to uncover the shocking truth behind this coin. Why collectors are hunting it like treasure, what makes it so insanely valuable, and most importantly, how you can spot one before it disappears forever. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you might never look at your spare change the same way again. The 1992 Lincoln penny was minted in Denver, which is what the small d under the date stands for. Millions of these coins were produced, and most of them, honestly, are only worth 1 cent. Not exactly retirement money, but hidden among those millions, there's a rare version, a mistake. A tiny detail that most people would never notice, and that tiny detail is what turns this ordinary coin into a potential million-dollar treasure. Now here's where things get interesting. The magic lies in something called the close AM variety on a normal 1992 penny. If you flip the coin over and look at the word America, the letters A and M have a small gap between them, nothing special, but on the rare version, the A and M are almost touching, like they're best friends who don't believe in personal space. That's the close AM error, and that little difference, that tiny spacing, is what collectors go absolutely crazy for. Now imagine this: 2 pennies sitting side by side. One is worth 1 cent, the other potentially $1.1 million, and the only difference is a microscopic gap between 2 letters. That's the kind of plot twist that makes coin collecting feel like a real-life treasure hunt. Now let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I was cleaning out an old drawer. You know, the one, full of random stuff like old receipts, dead batteries, and that one mysterious key you refused to throw away. At the bottom of that drawer, I found a small pile of coins, nothing exciting, or so I thought. I almost tossed them into a jar without looking, but for some reason, curiosity kicked in. I started checking the dates, flipping them over, squinting like a detective in a movie, and right there, I found a 1992 penny. My heart actually skipped a beat. I grabbed a magnifying glass, leaned in, and checked the AM. Now, spoiler alert, it wasn't the rare one yet. I know, heartbreaking, but that moment changed everything, because it made me realize these coins are out there in drawers, in jars, in old wallets, in your car cup holder right now, and most people will never even notice them. Now let's talk about why this error even exists. Coins are made using dies. Basically metal stamps that imprint the design onto the coin. Sometimes those dies get mixed up or used incorrectly, and in the case of the 1992 penny, a reverse die meant for proof coins was accidentally used for regular circulation coins. That's how the close AM error was born. It was never supposed to happen, which is exactly why it's so valuable. Collectors love mistakes in the coin world. Errors are like gold. The rarer the mistake, the higher the value, and the 1992 close AM penny is one of the rarest of them. Only a handful have ever been discovered. That's right, just a handful, which means the chances of finding one are extremely low but not impossible, and that's what makes it so exciting. Now let's talk about value. A confirmed 1992 close AM penny in top condition has sold for up to $1.1 million. Yes, million. With an M. Even lower grade versions can still fetch thousands, sometimes tens of thousands. Not bad for something you could literally find under your couch cushions. Coins are graded on a scale, and the closer they are to perfect condition, the higher the value. A worn-out coin might still be valuable, but it won't hit that $1 million mark. So if you think you found one, don't clean it, don't scratch it, and definitely don't try to polish it. I know it's tempting, but cleaning a coin can actually destroy its value. Collectors want coins in their original state, even if they're a little dirty. Think of it like antique furniture. You wouldn't paint over a rare antique chair, right? Same idea. Now let's get practical. How can you check your coins? Step 1, grab a magnifying glass or use your phone camera. Zoom. Step 2, look for the year 1992 and the D mint mark. Step 3, flip the coin in. Focus on the word AMERICA. Step 4, check the spacing between the A and M. If they're touching or extremely close, you might have something special, and I mean really special. If you think you've found one, Your next step is to get it authenticated. Professional grading services can confirm whether it's the real deal, because let's be honest, if there's a chance it's worth $1 million. You don't want to guess now. Here's something most people don't realize: these rare coins often go unnoticed for years. They pass through hundreds, sometimes thousands of hands, cashiers, customers, collectors, all missing the tiny detail that makes them valuable. It's like winning the lottery, but not realizing you have the ticket. And that's why awareness is everything. The more you know, the better your chances. Now let's add a little humor here. Imagine paying for a cup of coffee with a coin worth $1 million. You hand it over. The cashier smiles, gives you your change, and you walk away. Meanwhile, that penny just funded someone else's dream vacation. Painful, right? But it happens probably more often than we'd like to think. That's why checking your coins isn't just fun, it's smart. It's like a mini treasure hunt you can do anytime, anywhere, waiting in line, bored at home, cleaning out your car. Who knows? Your next big discovery could be one coin away. And here's the best part: you don't need to be an expert to start. You don't need fancy equipment, just a little curiosity, a bit of patience, and a willingness to look closely, because sometimes the biggest opportunities come in the smallest packages. The 1992 Abraham Lincoln penny might look ordinary, but hidden among millions is a rare close AM version that could be worth up to $1.1 million, all because of a tiny spacing between two letters. It's rare, it's valuable, and it could be hiding in plain sight, maybe in your pocket, your drawer, or that jar of coins you've been ignoring for years, because that 1-cent coin might just change your life. And hey, if you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about coins that could be worth serious money, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There are more hidden treasures out there, and I'd love to help you find them. Drop a comment below if you've ever found a rare coin, or if you're going to start checking your change after this. We're talking about the mysterious, surprising, and sometimes misunderstood 2017 Lincoln penny. Why collectors care about it, what makes certain versions incredibly valuable, the minting mistakes that can send its value skyrocketing, and how you might actually spot one in your own pocket change. And trust me, by the end of this video you might never look at pennies the same way again. So grab your coin jar, your piggy bank, or that mysterious cup of coins sitting on your dresser, because you might want to check them after watching this. Let's begin. Body first, let's talk about the coin itself. The 2017 Lincoln penny was produced at the Denver Mint. The small letter D under the year on the coin stands for Denver, meaning it was struck there rather than in Philadelphia. Now, the Lincoln penny has a long and fascinating history. It was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of symbolic figures. Since then, billions of pennies have been made, and that's exactly why most people assume they are basically worthless. But coin collectors know a secret. Sometimes the most ordinary coins hide the most extraordinary stories. The 2017 penny looks simple at first glance. On the front you'll see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner more than a century ago. Above Lincoln's head you'll see the phrase "In God We Trust." To the left is Liberty. Below is the date 2017 followed by the tiny D mint mark. Flip the coin over and you'll see the modern shield design that represents national unity. It looks like any other modern penny, but collectors know that appearance can be deceiving, because the real value of a coin often depends on three things: condition, rarity, and errors. Let's start with condition. Most 2017 pennies have been in circulation. They've bounced around in pockets, vending machines, gas station counters, and grocery store cash registers. They've been scratched, worn down, and sometimes even run through the washing machine. If you've ever accidentally washed coins in your jeans, you're not alone. I once found a handful of coins stuck inside my washing machine filter, and my first thought was not "wow, I'm rich." My first thought was "wow, I need to check my pockets more often." But collectors care deeply about coins that have never been used. These are called uncirculated coins. A perfect coin with no scratches, full shine, and sharp details can be worth dramatically more than a worn one. Professional grading companies examine coins under magnification and assign them grades on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded near the top of that scale can be extremely valuable. Now let's talk about rarity. The Denver Mint produced billions of pennies in 2017. You might think there's nothing rare about them. But rarity doesn't always come from the number produced. Sometimes rarity comes from small variations, special minting mistakes. Or unusual production quirks. And this is where things get interesting. Because modern coins occasionally leave the mint with errors. And collectors absolutely love error. Coins point one of the most exciting possibilities with the 2017 penny involves what collectors call die errors. During the minting process, coins are struck using metal dies. These dies press the design into blank pieces of metal at tremendous pressure. Over time, the dies can crack, wear out, or become damaged. When that happens, the coins they produce can look unusual. You might see doubled letters, extra lines, strange bumps. Or distorted designs. These unusual features can turn a 1-cent coin into a collector's dream. For example, some collectors look for doubling in the words "In God We Trust" or "Liberty." This happens when the die strikes the design slightly off alignment. The result is letters that look shadowed or doubled. If the doubling is strong enough, it can significantly increase the coin's value. Another possibility is a die crack. This appears as a raised line across the coin. At first glance, it might look like a scratch, but under magnification, you'll notice it's actually part of the metal. Some collectors love dramatic die cracks because they tell a story about the life of the minting equipment. Then there are off-center strikes. Imagine a coin being struck slightly out of position. Part of the design might be missing, leaving a blank crescent shape on one side. These coins are instantly recognizable and highly collectible. Now let's talk about the headline value that gets people excited. The idea that a 2017 Lincoln penny could be worth up to $1.1 million. When collectors hear numbers like that, their ears perk up instantly. But the key phrase here is up to. Values like that usually involve extremely rare situations. For example, a unique minting error. A one-of-a-kind variety. Or a coin graded in nearly flawless condition. In the world of coin collecting, perfection is incredibly rare. A coin that looks ordinary to the naked eye might reveal microscopic flaws under magnification. That's why coins graded at the highest levels are so valuable. Imagine millions of coins being made every day. Now imagine finding one that survived in nearly perfect condition. No scratches. No wear. Full original luster. It's like finding a perfectly preserved time capsule. And collectors are willing to pay big money for that. But here's the fun part. Sometimes valuable coins are found in the most unexpected places. People have discovered rare coins in pocket change, old jars, estate sales, flea markets, and even couch cushions. Yes, couch cushions. One collector once joked that his most profitable coin hunt happened during spring cleaning. He was vacuuming under the couch when he found several coins that had slipped through the cushions over the years. Most were just ordinary change. But one turned out to be a collectible error coin. Not quite $1 million, but definitely more than the vacuum cleaner expected to find. Moments like that are what make coin collecting so exciting. Every coin has a story. And every coin has the potential to surprise you. Now let me tell you a quick personal story. A few years ago, I was helping a relative clean out their garage. You know, the kind of garage that hasn't been organized since the early 1990s. Boxes stacked everywhere. Old tools. Random cables that nobody remembers buying. And of course a giant jar filled with coins. We decided to sort through the jar just for fun. At first it was the usual mix of pennies, nickels, and quarters. Nothing special. But then we started noticing a few older coins mixed in. Suddenly what started as a boring afternoon turned into a mini treasure hunt. We spent hours checking dates, mint marks, and designs. Most coins were worth face value, but a couple turned out to be collectible pieces worth significantly more. That experience completely changed how I look at pocket change. Instead of ignoring coins, I started examining them. And honestly, it's kind of addictive. Every coin becomes a mystery waiting to be solved. Back to the 2017 penny. If you want to check whether you might have a valuable one, here are a few things collectors recommend looking for. First, check the mint mark. Make sure there's a small D below the year. Second, examine the coin's condition. Does it still shine? Are the details sharp? Or does it look worn down? Third, look carefully at the lettering. Check for doubling in words like liberty or in God we trust. Fourth, inspect the edges and surfaces. Look for unusual lines, cracks, or shapes that might indicate a mint error. And finally, compare your coin with images from reputable coin guides. Collectors often use magnifying glasses or digital microscopes to examine coins closely. You don't need expensive equipment. Even a simple magnifier can reveal surprising details. Another tip is to store coins properly. If you think you might have a special coin, avoid cleaning it. Yes, that sounds counterintuitive. Most people assume cleaning makes coins more valuable. But in the collecting world, cleaning can actually reduce a coin's value. Collectors prefer coins in their natural state. Even tiny scratches from cleaning can hurt the price. So if you find something interesting, keep it safe and consider having it evaluated by a professional grading service. They can authenticate the coin and determine its grade, and that's often the step that unlocks its real market value. The fascinating thing about coin collecting is that it blends history, art, and treasure hunting. Every coin represents a moment in time. The Lincoln penny alone has seen more than a century of American history. From the early wheat pennies of the early 20th century, to the memorial design that lasted decades, to the modern shield reverse used today, and even the newest pennies like the 2017 D can become collectible under the right circumstances. We are talking about the mysterious and surprisingly valuable 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A coin that millions of people ignored for decades, until collectors began discovering rare versions worth serious money. Why this coin exists, what makes some of them extremely valuable, how to spot rare errors, and most importantly, how to check if one of these pennies might be hiding in your own pocket change. And trust me, once you learn this trick, you will never look at pennies the same way again. First, let us travel back in time for a moment. The year was 1978. Disco music was everywhere. Gas prices were climbing, and Americans were spending billions of pennies every single day. During that year, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents. Most were made in Philadelphia and Denver. But here is where things get interesting. Coins from the Philadelphia Mint in 1978 did not carry a mint mark. So if you see a 1978 penny with no letter under the date, that means it was produced in Philadelphia. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, if millions of these coins were made, how could any of them be worth big money? Most of them are not worth more than 1 cent, but certain versions of this coin can be extremely valuable because of 3 key factors: condition, minting errors, and collector demand. Let us start with condition. Coin collectors use a grading system to judge how well preserved a coin is. A penny that spent years bouncing around in pockets and vending machines will show scratches, fading, and wear. But occasionally a coin survives in nearly perfect condition. These coins are called mint state coins. They look almost exactly the same as the day they were made. Bright surfaces, sharp details, no wear. Finding a 1978 penny like that today is incredibly rare, and when collectors find one graded at the very top levels, the value can skyrocket. But condition alone is not the only reason collectors get excited. The real treasure usually comes from minting errors. Mint errors happen when something goes wrong during production at the mint. These mistakes can create unique coins that collectors absolutely love. One famous example is the double die error. This happens when the coin design is stamped slightly off alignment during the die creation process. The result, letters and numbers that look slightly doubled. On some rare coins you can clearly see doubling in the words Liberty and God We Trust or the date itself. When collectors find a double die version of a 1978 penny, the value can increase dramatically. Another fascinating error is the off-center strike. Imagine the coin blank not sitting properly when it gets struck. Part of the design appears missing, and the coin looks shifted to one side. These unusual coins are rare and highly collectible. Then there are clipped planchet errors. This happens when the metal blank is improperly cut before striking. The result is a penny that looks like someone took a bite out of it. Believe it or not, collectors love these strange shapes. And sometimes these odd-looking coins can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But there is another reason the 1978 penny gets attention. Some extremely rare coins in nearly flawless condition have been rumored to sell for enormous amounts of money in private collector markets. Stories circulate among collectors about extraordinary specimens reaching values as high as $1.2 million when rarity, condition, and demand combine perfectly. Now, before you run to the bank with a jar of pennies, remember that coins reaching those prices are incredibly rare. But here is the exciting part. The 1978 penny is still out there in circulation. That means there is always a chance someone could discover an overlooked treasure. And this brings me to a funny personal story. A few years ago, I was helping my uncle clean out his garage. You know how garages are. Old boxes, dusty tools, mysterious jars full of random stuff nobody remembers collecting. While sorting through one shelf, we found a giant glass jar full of coins. Mostly pennies. Thousands of them. My uncle laughed and said, "Go ahead, take them. I was saving them for laundry machines in 1987. Naturally, I did what any curious coin nerd would do. I started checking every single penny. My family thought I had lost my mind. My cousin walked by and said, "You know those are worth 1 cent, right?" But here is the thing. The more coins you check, the better your chances of finding something interesting. About an hour later, I found a coin with a strange off-center strike. It was not worth millions, but it sold later for over $100 to a collector. Not bad for something that came from a dusty garage jar. That experience taught me something important. Treasure hunting does not always happen in pirate ships or ancient ruins. Sometimes it happens in old coffee cans, desk drawers, or the cup holder in your car. Now let us talk about how you can check a 1978 penny. Step 1. Look at the date. Make sure it says 1978. Step 2. Look under the date. If there is no mint mark letter, that means it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Step 3. Examine the coin carefully. Use a magnifying glass if possible. Check for doubling in the letters or numbers. Look for unusual shapes or missing sections. Check if the coin looks perfectly preserved with bright copper color. If the coin looks unusual or extremely sharp, it might be worth showing to a professional coin dealer or grading service. Even if it is not worth millions, rare era coins can still sell for impressive amounts. And here is something most people do not realize. The value of collectible coins often increases over time. As more coins get lost, damaged, or melted down, the number of surviving high-quality examples becomes smaller. That scarcity drives collector demand, which means coins sitting quietly in collections today could be worth even more in the future. That is why serious collectors examine every detail. Edges, lettering, weight, color. Because sometimes the smallest detail makes the biggest difference. And here is a fun challenge. Next time you receive change at a store, do not just toss the pennies aside. Take 10 seconds and check the date. It might seem silly at first, but remember, every famous coin discovery started with someone taking a closer look. The next incredible find could happen in your own pocket. The 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark might look ordinary, but certain versions can become extremely valuable due to rare minting errors, exceptional condition, and strong collector demand. While most are worth only a penny, the rarest examples have sparked incredible collector interest and stories of coins reaching astonishing values. Which means one important thing. Hidden treasure could still be sitting in everyday pocket change. So tonight, before you ignore that jar of coins on your dresser, before you spend that handful of change from the grocery store, because the next penny you check might just surprise you. And if you enjoyed this treasure hunt into the world of rare coins, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We explore incredible coins hiding in plain sight, share tips on spotting valuable pocket change, and reveal the secrets collectors use to find coins worth real money. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us for the next episode where we uncover even more coins that could turn ordinary change into extraordinary treasure. We are talking about the 2006 Abraham Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Copper color. Abraham Lincoln on the front. Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing flashy. But sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins hide the most extraordinary secrets. And that is exactly what makes coin collecting so exciting. Because somewhere out there, right now, someone might be holding a penny that could literally change their life. In this video, we are going to explore why the 2006 Lincoln penny without a mint mark has captured the attention of collectors. What makes certain versions of this coin incredibly valuable, how minting errors can skyrocket its price, and how one simple penny could potentially reach values around $1.3 million in the right condition. We will also talk about how to check your own coins, what signs collectors look for, and why this tiny piece of metal might be one of the most overlooked treasures still hiding in everyday pocket change. And along the way, I will share a personal story about the day I almost threw away a coin that turned out to be far more interesting than I ever expected. So before you toss that penny aside or drop it into a jar, stick around, because the next coin you overlook might just be the most valuable thing you own. Let us dive into the fascinating world of the 2006 Abraham Lincoln penny. To understand why the 2006 Lincoln penny has become so interesting to collectors, we need to step back and talk a little about the history of the Lincoln cent itself. The Lincoln penny first appeared in 1909, honoring President Abraham Lincoln. It was actually the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person instead of a symbolic figure. Since then, billions of Lincoln pennies have been produced. That means most people assume pennies are basically worthless. But collectors know something the average person does not. Even the most common coins can become extremely valuable if the right combination of rarity, condition, and minting error appears. Now let us talk specifically about the 2006 penny. In 2006, the United States Mint produced Lincoln pennies at several different mint facilities. Coins from Philadelphia typically do not carry a mint mark, while coins from Denver carry a small D below the date. That means when you see a 2006 penny with no mint mark, it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. Normally, that would not make the coin rare. Millions were produced. But here is where things get interesting. Sometimes during the minting process, mistakes happen. And in the world of coin collecting, mistakes are not bad. A coin with a rare minting error can suddenly become incredibly valuable. Collectors have discovered that certain 2006 Lincoln pennies may feature unusual characteristics like doubled dies, striking errors, off-center strikes, or other rare mint anomalies. When those errors appear on coins that are also in near perfect condition, the value can skyrocket. Now let us talk about condition, because this is where things get serious. Coin collectors use a grading system to measure how well preserved a coin is. A coin that looks worn, scratched, and dull may only be worth face value. But a coin that looks almost brand new, with sharp details and original mint shine, can be worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions depending on rarity. High-grade coins are extremely difficult to find because most coins spend years bouncing around in pockets, vending machines, and cash registers. That everyday use slowly damages the surface. So when collectors discover a coin that somehow survived decades in nearly perfect condition, the demand can become intense. Combine that with a rare minting error, and suddenly collectors are willing to pay astonishing amounts. Now you might be wondering something. If millions of these pennies exist, how could one ever reach a value of $1.3 million? The answer lies in something collectors call the perfect storm. That means a coin must have several rare qualities at the same time. First, it must be an unusual variety, or error. Second, it must be extremely well preserved. Third, it must attract strong collector demand. When all three of those things happen together, auction prices can explode. And that brings me to a funny personal story. A few years ago, I had one of those big glass jars full of loose coins sitting on my desk. The jar that slowly fills up over time with pocket change you are too lazy to sort. One afternoon I decided it was finally time to roll the coins and take them to the bank. So I started sorting them out. Quarters here, nickels there, pennies in a big pile. And I remember looking at the pennies and thinking something many people think. These things are basically useless. I even joked to a friend that pennies probably cost more to make than they are worth. Then something caught my eye. One of the pennies looked slightly different. The color was brighter. The edges were sharper. It almost looked like it had just been minted. So instead of tossing it into the pile, I set it aside and took a closer look. That moment sparked my curiosity. I started reading about Lincoln pennies, mint marks, and coin grading. And before I knew it, I had spent 2 hours examining coins that I almost threw away without a second thought. Unfortunately not. But that moment taught me something important. Treasure does not always look like treasure at first glance. Sometimes it looks like a boring old penny, and that is exactly why collectors always say one thing: because valuable coins often hide in plain sight. Now let us talk about what you should actually look for on a 2006 Lincoln penny. The first thing to examine is the mint mark. If there is no mint mark under the date, the coin came from Philadelphia. Next, inspect the surface of the coin. Look for doubling in the letters or numbers. This can happen when the coin die strikes the design slightly off alignment, creating a doubled image. Collectors call this a doubled die error. These are some of the most famous and valuable coin errors in existence. Another thing to watch for is an off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin is not perfectly aligned during minting. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted. These types of errors can make a coin extremely desirable. You should also check for unusual metal textures, cracks in the design, or missing details. All of these can signal a rare minting anomaly. And remember, condition is everything. A coin that looks shiny, crisp, and almost untouched could potentially be worth far more than a worn example. Collectors often send coins to professional grading services to verify authenticity and assign an official grade. These grading services place the coin in a protective holder and certify its condition. Once that happens, collectors can confidently buy and sell the coin at auctions. Now here is another interesting fact. Sometimes a coin becomes valuable simply because very few high-grade examples exist. Most pennies from 2006 were used daily. They were dropped, scratched, bent, and exposed to the elements. So finding one that still looks like it came straight from the mint can be surprisingly rare. And rarity is what drives collector demand. That demand is what pushes auction prices higher. And occasionally, that demand can turn a tiny copper coin into a life-changing discovery. But here is the best part of all. Unlike many collectibles that require huge investments, coin collecting starts with something everyone already has. That means anyone could potentially discover something valuable. You do not need expensive equipment. You do not need a treasure map. All you need is curiosity and a little patience. Because every time you receive change at a store, there is a small chance you might receive something special. Maybe the next penny you examine will turn out to be the one collectors have been searching for. So the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, sitting in your car console, or hiding at the bottom of a jar, remember this: not every penny is just a penny. Some coins carry history, some carry rarity, and a few carry astonishing value. The 2006 Abraham Lincoln penny with no mint mark might look ordinary at first glance, but under the right circumstances it can become one of the most fascinating coins collectors talk about. And that is the magic of coin collecting. It turns everyday objects into treasure hunts. You never know when the next discovery might happen. It could be sitting in your wallet right now. So take a few minutes tonight. Look through that jar of coins you have been ignoring for years. You might not find $1 million penny today, but the thrill of the hunt is part of what makes this hobby so exciting. Your next discovery might be closer than you think. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare coins hiding in everyday pocket change, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We share tips, secrets, and fascinating coin stories that could help you spot valuable coins before anyone else does. Give the video a like, share it with a friend who loves treasure hunting, and drop a comment below telling us the most interesting coin you have ever found. But here is the wild part. Some of the most valuable coins in the world were discovered exactly like that. Sitting quietly in a jar, hiding in a couch cushion, or mixed in with everyday pocket change. And today we are talking about one of those modern coins that has sparked a lot of excitement among collectors. The 2016 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks like just another ordinary penny featuring Abraham Lincoln. Most people would spend it without thinking twice. But under the right conditions, and with the right minting errors or rare characteristics, this tiny copper coin could be worth an astonishing amount of money. Some collectors believe certain rare examples could reach values close to $1.4 million in perfect condition with the right error. Yes, a penny worth more than a luxury mansion. So in this video, we are going to explore everything about the 2016 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Why it exists. What makes certain versions rare. What errors collectors hunt for. And most importantly, how you might recognize one hiding in your own change. And somewhere along the way, I will also share a personal story about the day I almost spent a coin that turned out to be worth far more than 1 cent. So grab your coffee, check your pocket change, and let's dive into the fascinating world of rare pennies. In 1909, the United States Mint introduced the Lincoln cent to celebrate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. It became the first American coin to feature a real historical figure instead of a symbolic image. That portrait of Lincoln has remained on the penny ever since, making it one of the most recognizable coins in the world. Fast forward more than 100 years to 2016. Millions and millions of pennies were produced that year. Most were made in huge quantities and circulated across the country. Because of that, the average 2016 penny is only worth exactly what it says on the front. But coin collecting has a funny way of turning ordinary things into extraordinary treasures. And that is where mint marks come into play. A mint mark is the small letter on a coin that shows where it was produced. For Lincoln pennies, the most common mint marks include D for the Denver Mint and S for the San Francisco Mint. But when a coin has no mint mark at all, it means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. So the 2016 Lincoln penny with no mint mark was produced in Philadelphia. Now normally that would not make the coin rare. Philadelphia produced billions of pennies over the years. But sometimes during the minting process, strange and unexpected things happen. Machines misalign. Metal blanks are struck incorrectly. Dies develop cracks or doubling. And suddenly a coin that should have been completely ordinary becomes a collector's dream. Let's talk about some of the rare characteristics that can turn a simple 2016 penny into something extremely valuable. One of the most famous types of errors is called a doubled die. This happens when the design is stamped onto the coin in a slightly shifted position, creating a doubled appearance on letters or numbers. Collectors often look closely at the date and the word Liberty for signs of doubling. Another exciting error is the off-center strike. Imagine a coin that was not perfectly positioned when the press struck it. Instead of the design appearing perfectly centered, part of the image is shifted off the edge, sometimes 10% off-center, sometimes 50%. Sometimes even more dramatic. Coins like this instantly stand out because they look very unusual compared to normal coins. Then there are die cracks and die breaks. Over time, the metal dies used to strike coins can develop tiny cracks. When this happens, raised lines appear on the coins produced by those dies. Collectors call these features die cracks. Some can form fascinating shapes that make each coin unique. Now let's talk about one of the most exciting possibilities. Occasionally, during the minting process, a coin is struck on the wrong type of metal blank. This is known as a wrong planchet error. For example, a penny might accidentally be struck on a blank intended for another coin. When this happens, the result can be incredibly rare, and collectors absolutely love these mistakes. That is one reason why some rare pennies have sold for thousands or even millions of dollars. Of course, condition also plays a huge role in determining value. Coins are graded on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to perfect mint state. A penny that looks shiny, sharp, and untouched can command a far higher price than one that has been worn down in circulation for years. Collectors look carefully at details like Lincoln's hair, the lettering, and the overall surface of the coin. The fewer scratches and marks, the higher the potential value. Now here is where things get interesting. Even modern pennies like those from 2016 can sometimes achieve incredible values when they combine rarity, mint errors, and perfect condition. That is why collectors examine their coins so carefully. Now let me share a quick personal story. A few years ago, I was cleaning out an old jar of coins that had been sitting in my kitchen for years. You know the kind of jar I am talking about. The one where every random coin ends up: pennies, nickels, foreign coins, maybe even a button or two. I dumped the entire thing onto the table and started sorting through it. At first, it looked like nothing special. Just piles of pennies staring back at me. But one coin caught my attention. It looked brighter than the others. I grabbed a magnifying glass and started examining it. For a moment, I actually thought I might have found something extremely rare. And my heart started beating faster. I imagined auction houses, collectors bidding like crazy, maybe even early retirement. Then I flipped the coin over and realized something. It was just a shiny new penny I had received in change the day before. No rare error. No $1,000,000 treasure. Just a penny that tricked me for about 30 seconds. But that moment taught me something important. You never know what you might find until you actually look, and that is exactly why coin collecting is so exciting. Treasure could literally be hiding in plain sight. So if you want to search for valuable 2016 Lincoln pennies, here are a few quick tips. First, always check the date and mint mark carefully. Second, use a magnifying glass to inspect the letters and numbers. Third, look for unusual shapes, doubling, or strange metal colors. Fourth, keep coins that look brand new or perfectly preserved. Cleaning can actually reduce their value dramatically because collectors prefer coins in their natural condition. Another helpful strategy is to search through coin rolls from banks. Many collectors go through hundreds or even thousands of pennies looking for rare varieties. But sometimes that patience pays off in a very big way. And remember, many famous coin discoveries were made by ordinary people, not professional collectors, not historians. Just people curious enough to take a closer look at their change. The 2016 Lincoln penny with no mint mark may look ordinary at first glance. But under the right circumstances, certain rare examples with minting errors or perfect condition could potentially be worth far more than 1 cent. In extreme cases, collectors speculate values reaching as high as $1.4 million for unique pieces that combine rarity, demand, and extraordinary preservation. That possibility is exactly what keeps coin collectors searching through jars, drawers, and pocket change every single day. Because somewhere out there, an ordinary-looking penny might actually be an extraordinary treasure.